Nahir Galarza, a young woman who was once seen as bright and attractive, became the youngest female to receive a life sentence for murdering her boyfriend, Fernando Pastorizo. She shot him twice at close range and watched as he bled to death. Instead of pursuing her path to become a law graduate, she ended up as a convicted killer. This 2017 crime stunned Argentina and continues to spark debate. Nahir shot Fernando once in the back and then again while looking into his eyes. How did love and hate become so intertwined in the mind of someone so smart and promising? At just 19, she committed this brutal act, possibly out of fear that he would leave her. This tragic story has deeply resonated, leading to the creation of several books, a miniseries, a movie, and even a rap song. Despite the widespread attention, Argentina's justice system sentenced her to 35 years in prison. It's been 6 years since Nahir's historical sentencing. How did this tragic and bewildering situation unfold? Let's take a closer look at the details of this case that shocked so many. Get ready for a chilling dive into the world of a teenage murder and the dramatic legal and media circus that followed. This is the story of Nahir Galarza, Argentina's own Lady Macbeth. On the night of December 29th, at 2:17 a.m., a young couple rides through the quiet streets of the city on an old moped. Their journey appears aimless, at least to one of them. The other harbors a dark plan, quietly unfolding in her mind. The man drives while the woman clings to him, an embrace that will soon turn fatal. In the early hours, amid the sweltering heat of an Argentinian year-end, a faint river breeze offers little relief. Moments earlier, they had been lost in each other's embrace, typical of the passion and conflict that defined Nahir Galarza and Fernando Pastorizo. Young, attractive, and deeply involved, their relationship was marked by love, physical closeness, disillusionment, and turmoil. They ride together on two wheels. He drives with a sense of contentment, while she appears distant. On the outside, she seems calm, but her mind is a storm of conflicting thoughts. The secret plan she has carefully devised is approaching its climax, a plan that will change their lives forever. After this night, nothing will be the same. At her request, he takes a detour down a dirt alley leading to her grandmother's house. He follows, unaware of what's to come. Although it's not part of his usual route, it's still a familiar part of Gualeguaychú's urban landscape. Suddenly, a loud, startling noise shatters the quiet, too sharp to be a festive firecracker. He feels a searing pain and looks into the eyes of his girlfriend, his companion through a tumultuous 4-year relationship, only to see emptiness staring back. They fall off the bike, with him pinned underneath, a bullet lodged in his back. She keeps her gaze fixed on him, as if trying to absorb his very essence. Leaning in, she examines him closely. From his spot, he senses her adrenaline and the scent of her presence. Fernando Pastorizo, caught completely off guard, is unable to defend himself or react. Even those used to harsh treatment brace for impact, but she gave him no warning. Now, he was truly facing his final moments. Fernando Pastorizo struggled to make sense of the surreal scene. He tried to cover his wound and stop the bleeding, but it was futile. All he could do was try to comprehend the reality unfolding around him. As his blood-soaked hand trembled before him, he realized these were his final breaths, with his killer standing before him, watching. She moved closer until they were face to face. For her, failure was not an option. The plan had to be flawless, without room for hesitation or mistakes. If he survived, the repercussions would be severe, not just legally but also with her father, a dominant police officer and the primary male figure in her life. That's why she decided one shot wasn't enough. She had to make sure it ended. Having learned to handle firearms at 14, she calmly extended her arm and fired again, this time with determination. Fernando, her boyfriend, lay lifeless, unable in his final moments to grasp why the woman he had just shared an intimate moment with had so ruthlessly taken his life on that warm December morning. She, precise in her planning, moved beside his still warm body, picking up one of the bullet casings. Suddenly, she froze at the sound of an approaching vehicle and the sudden flash of headlights. It was an unexpected time and place for anyone to be passing through that alley. Hoping it was just an animal or a trick of the light, she quickly realized it was neither. As a Fiat Uno drew closer, panic set in. She cursed under her breath and hurried to escape. The arrival of a taxi in such a secluded area was entirely unforeseen. For a brief moment, she considered eliminating any potential witnesses but quickly dismissed the idea of more bloodshed. She chose to flee in haste, inadvertently leaving behind a crucial piece of evidence, a bullet casing that could trace back to her. In situations like this, outcomes are often determined by the smallest of details. Meanwhile, a passerby spotted Pastor Rizzo lying beneath the motorcycle and initially assumed it was a drunk driving accident. He approached to help, his thoughts drifting to the recklessness of today's youth. As he got closer, he realized the seriousness of the situation and found Pastor Rizzo bleeding heavily. A single bloody tear rolled down the young man's cheek. The passerby quickly called emergency services, reporting what he thought was a severe accident. Meanwhile, she hurried back home, her walk fast and her breath heavy, the weight of her actions beginning to sink in. She had not only taken Fernando's life but also changed her own forever. She was now a murderer. Arriving home near the familiar coast and river, she encountered a former flame with his new girlfriend. They exchanged glances but acted as if they hadn't seen each other. Those who saw her walk in noticed a calm smile on her face. She seemed almost relieved, as if what she had just done had lifted a huge burden off her shoulders, but the horrific truth of her actions was now sealed forever. She moved through the kitchen, returning the gun to its usual spot atop the refrigerator, the pistol kept there for quick access at her police officer father's insistence, fearing a potential attack. Yet no such threat ever occurred. What did happen, as he slept, was that his eldest daughter took the gun for a much darker purpose: to kill her boyfriend. In the aftermath, the young woman frantically scrubs her hands, much like Lady Macbeth, desperately trying to erase any traces of gunpowder. She has just committed murder and, in a daze, retreats to her bedroom, collapsing onto her bed. It's a fleeting moment of calm after the chaos. Her mind races, replaying the night's events, the intimacy, the motorcycle ride under the night sky, the feeling of the wind, the pull of the trigger, his labored breaths, the blood, so much blood, and the unexpected passerby, the hurried walk home, and the strange return to normalcy. She sighs, feeling a strange thrill amid the turmoil. She knows with heavy certainty that nothing will ever be the same again, not for her, and not for anyone touched by this night. But there's one final piece to complete her plan, an alibi. She turns to social media, posting on Instagram a message laced with false affection: "I love you forever. My angel." Surprisingly, sleep comes easily to her that night, a comfort that will soon elude her in the days to come. In those immediate moments, she could find rest. In the following nights, sleep becomes a challenge. She turns to sleeping pills just to get a moment's peace. When asked about her sleepless nights and the struggle to rest, she responds with a blank stare and empty eyes. Her haunting reply: "Fernando's ghost appears in my dreams." The verdict. Nahir Galarza wasn't present in the courtroom when her fate was sealed in the judicial chambers of Gualaicu, in the Entre Rios province, just north of Buenos Aires. The court delivered a decisive verdict, rejecting Galarza's claims that the killing was accidental. It concluded that the shots fired at her boyfriend were deliberate. These were intentional and aimed shots, the court declared, convicting Galarza of murder. Known for its proximity to the Uruguay border and vibrant carnivals, this small city felt the full impact of the crime. During the trial, Galarza accused Pastor Rizzo of mistreatment and gender assault, but the court ultimately rejected the defense's motion to consider these claims as mitigating circumstances, citing a lack of evidence. Galarza later admitted that she had lied to 911 and hadn't told anyone else what had really happened, saying, "Being injured does not mean that you are going to die." At this point in the trial, the narrative shifted. Fernando Pastorizo succumbed to his wounds before reaching the hospital, despite someone in the area eventually alerting the authorities. "It never even crossed my mind that he was going to die," Galarza said during the trial. "I found out when his mom called me. My heart stopped because she was calling me. That's when I found out what had happened. She asked me if I had been with him, and she told me that he had died." On the day of the murder, Galarza went to the police station and confessed to killing Pastor Rizzo with her father's service weapon. However, her story changed by the time of the trial. She claimed that Pastor Rizzo had taken the gun from her house and hidden it under his clothes. According to her, they both fell from the motorbike, causing the gun to fire the first shot. She then said she picked up the weapon, and it fired a second time. The judges did not believe her account. A ballistic expert's testimony was pivotal, as he ruled out the possibility of 2 accidental discharges. Additionally, security camera footage from the neighborhood contradicted Galarza's claims, showing her walking home at a normal pace, without any signs of shock or confusion. Another key piece of evidence was a photo Galarza posted on Instagram the morning after the murder, featuring her and the victim with the caption, "I will love you forever, my angel." Nahir Galarza's story. In the world of crime, some cases resonate more deeply, often because the perpetrator captivates more attention than the victim. In Latin America, figures like Ricardo Barada, Carlos Eduardo Rebolledo Puch, and Yaya Morano are well-known examples. Nahir Galarza is another such case. In the early hours of December 29, 2017, a defining moment occurred in Gualeguaychú. Just 2 days before the end of the year, the city was unaware of the crime that would grip its community and ultimately send Argentina's most infamous female murderer to prison. The revelation that Fernando Pastorizo had been killed by his girlfriend, a young blonde university student from a middle-class family, and the daughter of a police officer, shocked the media and the public. Until then, it was just another sad entry in local police records. Nahir, with her long, straight blonde hair and seemingly angelic appearance, concealed the emotional coldness she showed when confessing to the crime. The case drew significant attention, becoming front-page news, involving prominent figures, and covered continuously by special reporters. The Pastorizo case evolved into the Nahir case. Many became fascinated by Nahir herself, her complicated life, her interests, and every detail in between. People couldn't fathom how this seemingly ordinary girl could murder her partner in such a calculated manner. The drama, action, and sexual undertones of her televised trial, combined with real-life contradictions, lies, and deception, made it even more compelling. The story resembled a best-selling novel, presented as news. A key point of contention in the case was the claim of gender violence, with the defense arguing that Nahir was a victim and Pastorizo the aggressor. But how much of this was factual, and how much was a legal strategy? If Nahir were male, would the debate over whether she deserved the harshest penalty under the penal code be as intense? Their relationship was marked by toxicity, mutual aggression, accusations, and demands, all wrapped in secrets and mysteries. It was filled with possessiveness, anger, and infidelity, creating a volatile mix that turned their relationship into a constant conflict, evident in their public digital lives. WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter revealed conversations and arguments that highlighted their troubled relationship. Without any reduction in charges or leniency in sentencing, Nahir faces 35 years in prison and will only be eligible for release at 55. This raises a difficult question that many ponder but few are willing to confront. How can a seemingly good girl, someone's daughter or neighbor, be capable of such extreme actions? Consequences and context. Nahir Galarza holds the unfortunate record of being the youngest woman to receive a life sentence in Argentina. At the time of her sentencing, she was 19 years, 7 months, and 21 days old. However, she wasn't the youngest at the time of committing the crime. In a similar case in 2016, also in Entre Rios, Paula Arely Benitez was convicted of murdering her mother when she was 18. By the time of her sentencing, Benitez was just slightly older than Galarza, at 19 years, 8 months, and 1 day old. A collection of photographs, phone conversation transcripts, and emails were among the key pieces of documentary and testimonial evidence that supported Galarza's conviction. Expert testimony also played a crucial role in dismissing the idea that the gunshots were accidental. Experts suggested there was a 50% chance that the first shot could have been a mistake, but it was clear that the second shot, fired from just 50 centimeters away, was entirely intentional. The court also rejected the defense's claim that Fernando Pastorizo had been violent towards Galarza, a point that has remained controversial. Imprisonment Details. On September 4, 2018, it was confirmed that Nahir Galarza would be transferred to the women's facility at the Piranha Criminal Unit 6. This move came after she exceeded the maximum time allowed for a prisoner to be held in a police station, having spent 8 months at the Children and Women's Commissariat. The transfer was officially carried out on September 10th to Criminal Unit No. 6 in Concepción del Uruguay, Piranha. This facility is the only women's prison in the province of Entre Rios, and Galarza now shares a pavilion with 9 other inmates. Legal development. In August 2019, the Concordia Criminal Cassation Chamber rejected an appeal from Nahir Galarza's defense, upholding her life sentence. Reports from the same year revealed that Galarza was actively pursuing psychology studies as part of her prison activities. In March 2020, the Supreme Court of Justice of Entre Rios also dismissed an appeal against her life sentence. So far, Galarza's defense has made 2 attempts to appeal the sentence, but both have been unsuccessful. Life behind bars. On her first night at Entre Rios Penitentiary, Nahir Galarza was placed alone in a cell, a rare exception to the facility's rules. The next day, her birthday, she had a 3-hour lunch with her family, an unusual celebration, unlike her past and future birthdays. Nahir settled in with non-violent inmates, avoiding encounters with relatives of Clodomiro Catil, whom her father killed in 1996. Authorities assured she would only interact with non-violent inmates. She was allowed daily recreation, continued her law studies, 1 phone call per day, and bi-weekly family visits. On September 15th, less than a week into her sentence, Nahir used her phone call to give an interview to Ahora, her first since incarceration, facilitated by former official boards. She spoke with journalist Elias Moran, aiming to clear up misunderstandings, expressing annoyance at how the media portrayed her. She felt the coverage caused unwarranted hatred. The interview, aired on Channel 9 in Parana, ended with Moran sensing her emotional state after a call from her mother. This interview defied her lawyers' and parents' instructions not to speak publicly. On September 14th, the Galarza family took steps toward fulfilling their promise to relocate closer to Nahir. A moving truck outside their home marked the start of their new life, split between Parana and Gualeguaychú, a testament to their commitment to support their daughter's ongoing legal battles and appeals. Legal struggles and appeals.
In January 2022, Nahir Galarza, with new legal representation and the support of her mother, Yanina Corso, filed a complaint against her father, Marcelo Galarza, which was eventually dismissed. Despite this outcome, a restraining order now prevents Marcelo Galarza from approaching his ex-wife Corso in the prison where Nahir is held. The National Court remains the defense's last hope to overturn her life sentence. The court rejected the defense's claim that the gunshots that killed Galarza's boyfriend were accidental, concluding that they were intentional. The defense's hypothesis of involuntary gunshots has been disproven, stated the court. The decision by judges Mauricio Darden, Arturo Duman, and Alicia Vivian was made swiftly. Galarza's legal team has confirmed their intention to appeal the decision. The verdict has caused a major divide in Argentina, particularly visible on social media, where many Argentinians and South Americans have questioned the judiciary's quick handling of the case. They have compared it to other cases involving violence against women, often arguing that claims by women have not been fully investigated. The same Gualeguaychú court that tried Galarza also presided over the Susana Arrol murder case. Arrol was killed by her former partner, Ramon de la Cruz Ortiz, who was found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment just 3 months after the incident.
Court procedure details. In court, the defense and prosecution argued 3 main points, which can be summarized as follows. Nahir Galarza meticulously planned the murder and was characterized as a psychopathic killer who understands her actions but feels no guilt. On December 29, 2017, in Gualeguaychú, she killed her boyfriend, Fernando Pastorizo, allegedly because he intended to leave her. Nahir shot Fernando twice because she was being physically and mentally abused. The defense sought to portray her as a victim of gender-based discrimination and violence, arguing that her actions were a response to ongoing abuse. Nahir is psychotic and mentally unstable, seeing things that aren't there. This argument included claims of sexual abuse by her uncle during childhood, abuse by her mother, and the possibility that her father, policeman Marcelo Galarza, was the actual murderer. Nahir Galarza's appeal. Whether seen as a murderer, victim, or mentally unstable, each interpretation of Nahir Galarza's case sought validation in the Supreme Court of Justice of the nation. This was the final option for the youngest woman sentenced to life imprisonment to challenge the ruling that cemented her place in Argentine criminal history. There were many rumors about what the court might decide. Some speculated that the judges might consider granting Galarza a new hearing or even investigate her father as a possible perpetrator. However, the reality turned out differently. Nahir's appeal remained with the criminal opinions area of the Attorney General of the nation for nearly 2 years, and the decision was not in her favor. The appeal, submitted to the court on October 29, 2020, and transferred to the Attorney General's office in November 2022, was handled by José Estelans and co-signed by Rafael Herida Lenda, who joined as co-counsel in July 2020, but was dismissed in November 2022. Lenda had proposed a high-impact hypothesis, emphasizing Nahir's psychological state at the time of the murder. Although his involvement did not change the court's decision, Linda's efforts introduced a new dimension to the courtroom battle, focusing on Nahir's mental state during the crime. The relationship dynamics. Initially, Nahir Galarza tried to distance herself from the murder by claiming she wasn't even with Fernando Pastorizo, then later confessed and at one point even suggested he had killed himself. During the trial, she maintained that the shooting was an accident. However, the judges did not believe her, largely due to a psychiatric evaluation conducted by Dr. Simon Guillain on February 27, 2018, and later confirmed in court. The evaluation, performed on February 6th, 7th, and 9th, 2018, along with an analysis of legally relevant medical data, concluded that Nahir was capable of distinguishing right from wrong and legal from illegal. There was no evidence of mental incapacity or disorders that could have affected her ability to understand her actions or influence her decision-making at the time of the incident. Interviews with Nahir in prison revealed no signs of post-traumatic stress. Nahir Galarza's father and legal proceedings. Nahir Galarza's legal team, convinced that she was a victim of gender violence, argued for a retrial. Interestingly, their complaint did not mention Alicia Padet, an expert witness who extensively discussed Nahir's personality and victim status during the trial. Padet described Nahir as having a tendency to masochism, to self-annihilation. She seeks perfection. She's always neat and well-groomed, reflecting a distrust in others and susceptibility to violence. Her coldness shows a learned inability to express emotions, suggesting a message of, "I don't want to suffer anymore." However, Padet's testimony, based on just a 45-minute interview with Nahir, was scrutinized by the oral court, which even considered investigating her for possible false testimony, although no further action was taken as part of Galarza's defense strategy. As the court awaits the ruling of Attorney General Eduardo Cal, Nahir remains a high-profile inmate at the Women's Penal Unit No. 6 in Parana. If the court does not rule in her favor, she would only be eligible for parole.